This is how to set up networking on a Mixtile cluster box. The cluster box is equipped with a gigabit Ethernet connector for connecting to the outside network and provides high-speed networking for its compute nodes. First, let's log into the cluster box's admin surface, and then look into the internal network configuration. Well, you will find all 4 compute nodes together with their respective IP addresses they get from a DHCP server running on the control board. As the compute nodes can reach outside hosts via their respective IP addresses, but not via host name, you have to equip the control board with a DNS proxy, in this case DNS mask. You can do this in the software management of the admin web app of the cluster box. It'll just take some time, and then your compute nodes will have a DNS resolver on their local network, so that you can also define some extra DNS rules, maybe for hosts on your corporate network. Then comes the networking setup with the external network link. If you don't have IP version 6 on your corporate network, disable it here, because otherwise it would lead into trouble. Then comes the PCI Express, which the compute nodes are attached to. It's already configured as necessary. Then comes the setup of the DHCP server running on the control board, which is also fine. And then let's look into the external network setup. Don't forget that you need a DHCP server on your local networks. The cluster box can get its external IP from. Then come the routing rules. Here everything looks quite fine. The control board acts as a router and masquerader for its compute modules. Here come extra IP rules you can add whenever necessary. For instance, if you install some services on the compute nodes, you also have DHCP and DNS configuration and a list of host names for your compute nodes. This is particularly practical because you can define a host name for each of your compute nodes, so you don't have to memorize their respective IP addresses. There come some advanced settings. And of course, firewall settings. The baseboard adheres to. The most important thing is that the compute nodes can access the outside network via the baseboard, And of course there is an option for external hosts to access the compute nodes, but of course via NAT. You can add it in the zone settings as necessary here. Then let's look into the LAN zone settings, which look quite fine. Masquerading is of course switch on. So because NAT is active here, you will need to define port forwarding and firewall traffic rules wherever necessary in order to access services running on the compute nodes. Let's edit such a rule here. Then comes some NAT rules you can add wherever necessary. Now it's time to log out of the admin website and change into the SSH console to complete our networking setup. First, let's log into the cluster box and then access the hosts file, where the host names of the respective cluster nodes should already exist, so that you don't have to fiddle around with IP addresses. Then comes the resolve conf file, which is used by the DNS resolver. The DNS server, of course, is localhost because there's DNS mask running on it. So you normally don't have to change very much here. And then comes the central config file of DNS mask itself. Here you have to add some critical settings for DNS mask to allow to listen to both localhost, which is the control board, and the compute nodes, because it's the compute nodes which will need DNS mask to get hostnames resolved. Then it's time to log into each compute node to complete its networking configuration. That's not very hard, but unfortunately the Linux distro installed on the compute nodes comes without the nano text editor, so you have to use VI here. It's hard for beginners like many of us, but there are tons of VI tutorials on the web, so this should be a notable challenge for you. It's only necessary to edit the name server entry, which defaults to the IP of the control board. Then let's try out whether everything works with a short ping. Yeah, everything works fine. Then comes the next task, and this is updating the Linux installation. As a Debian derivative, the Linux on the compute nodes comes with aptitude. So first have to run apt-get update and then apt-get upgrade. But well, networking on the cluster board is quite slow, definitely slower than gigabit speed, and some kind of buggy. So bad advice is costly, and we have to wait for Mixtile to equip us with an updated control board, unfortunately.